This video is a tutorial for AMPC's Energy and Water Benchmarking tool. Once you've downloaded the tool from AMPC's website, make a copy and open it up. When you first open the tool, you may be prompted with security warnings about macros or opening the files if they're from the internet. There's no dangerous macros here, so go ahead and open up to the introduction page, which is this page here. Here you'll find a brief overview of the tool, which we won't go into. If you want more information about the tool, besides this overview page, there's two reports on AMPC's website that accompany this tool. These reports go into the detail of how the tool works, but for now, this tutorial will focus on how to use the tool. And for that, the most important part is to look at this key down the bottom here, which shows that required input is in dark green, and user input, which is optional, is in light green. You'll see that when we switch over to the inputs page down the bottom here. So click through onto that now. There's several sections on this inputs page: facility data, production data, product flow variations, consumption data, investment decision data, and lastly some preliminary benchmark results. We're going to go through each of these sections briefly and show you how best to use those. Facilities data has two questions: a section to write the name of your plant, which will appear as the title on the output pages, and a section to define the facilities on your plant. Here you can select from the drop-down boxes to choose what facilities are on your plant. It's important to get these questions right, because this will determine how the benchmark plant is adjusted to create a like-for-like comparison. You can see some selections cause further questions to appear in the product flow variations section. We'll get onto that soon. Production data also has two questions. There's a section here on what your maximum and current production is for a given year, and the measurement is across a whole year, and a second optional section which allows you to override the average hot standard carcass weight figure provided here. For each row, say for cattle, the average hot standard carcass weight figure is only used if you select units of production that are in head per year. If you select tons of hot standard carcass weight per year as your unit, then there's no need for you to put in an average weight. In any case, the maximum production is always in tons of hot standard carcass weight per year, and a calculation is then performed to determine what your maximum production is as a percentage. This allows the tool to adjust the benchmark site in order to create a like-for-like scenario if your plant is underproducing for that year. The product flow variations section appears if the tool needs more details for the facilities on your plant. In each case, these options allow the tool to modify the benchmark plant's performance to create a like-for-like comparison to your plant. Your plant's usage and costs are entered in the consumption data section. Under the annual consumption figures, it's important to make sure to convert the figures you have to the units shown in the tool. If you want to more accurately calculate your plant's savings and payback figures for opportunities, type in the annual spend for each commodity. Where you type in an annual spend, the tool will calculate a custom commodity rate. Otherwise, the default rate, shown here for example for coal, will be used. The last input section, investment decision data, allows you to set the maximum payback period acceptable for improvement opportunities. Any opportunity with a payback period above this figure will be screened out of the presentations on the output sheet. Finally, the preliminary benchmark figures are provided for you to review before going to the output page. This allows you to spot any numbers that don't seem quite right and to review the data you've provided to find any errors. Once you're happy with how they're looking, click through to the link below or use the tab down the bottom here to switch to the outputs sheet. When you switch to the outputs sheet, you may notice the page take half a second to load. This is normal and will happen each time you switch to this sheet as the tool processes the data provided on the inputs sheet. This outputs sheet has 5 sections, which I'll cover briefly now and will come back to in detail. Firstly, the benchmarking results, which are presented to you earlier and represented here. Secondly, the energy and water management plan approach described here with a link to more details. And lastly, the three benchmark areas. Firstly, thermal energy, followed by electrical energy, and lastly, water use. You can see for each of these the format is the same. And lastly, right at the top right of the screen, there's an export to PDF button, which when you click through will prompt you to save a PDF to a location you describe, and also optionally to view that PDF after creation. Going into the details, first, the management approach is to categorize the plant's performance in each benchmark into good, fair, or poor, and then on a basis of that categorization, present opportunities that are suitable to that performance. For example, a poorly performing plant should implement basic housekeeping before considering more advanced opportunities. You can see the color coding of the pyramid matches the dial gauge in each of the sections below. Further information on this management plan is available in a link, and sites should develop an energy management plan before continuing. The dial gauge in each section presents how well your plant performed against the benchmark plant. The benchmark plant is towards the green end. A description of improving performance of plants in this category is described on the left, and in the section below there are quantified performance opportunity examples. These examples first have any opportunity exceeding the threshold payback period you described filtered out, and the remaining opportunities are ranked by savings. Besides a description of the opportunity, there are indicative saving figures, which are adjusted based on your commodity costs, capital expenditure costs, and a payback range. Further information from AMPC's website is available via the hyperlink. So to summarize, download and open the tool from AMPC's website, gather a year's worth of data of production, water, and energy use to put into the tool, select your facilities from the facility data here, input your production data, a year's worth, and product flow variations across that year. Input all your consumption data here, your maximum payback period here. Review the benchmark results for any odd figures and double check your inputs. Click through to the output. Read through the management plan here, looking at the link to understand the context of the results below. Review your plant's performance. Here in this dial gauge, it's quantified against a benchmark site in green. The areas that you should be focusing on are described here on the left, and quantified examples are presented below with further links for more information. This is repeated for each of the categories, and if you'd like to export this report to PDF, at the top right there's a link to do that, where you can save that file in a destination of your choice. And if you want more information on the methodology, then click through to the summary sheet here, or have a look at AMPC's website where there's reports related to this.